The sun had long set beyond the distant planet, casting a cool, quiet darkness over the space station where Mark lived. The hum of the ship's engines was the only sound that filled the empty hallways. It was a small station, isolated far from any other human settlements. Mark, a young human caretaker, had spent the last 3 years taking care of Zara, an alien who had been injured in a mission and brought to the station for healing. Zara wasn't like any being Mark had ever known. Her species was highly advanced, with an intelligence and understanding of the universe that far exceeded his own. Despite her alien nature, Zara had become something more to Mark, someone he couldn't quite explain, even to himself. She had been his patient at first, someone he tended to with care and responsibility. But as the months passed, something shifted between them. They had a bond. It was unspoken, almost invisible, but it was there. Mark had grown fond of Zara's presence, her strange silver-blue skin, her sharp yet gentle demeanor, and the way she always seemed to see the world in a different light. It was all so captivating. He admired her, but over time the admiration grew into something deeper. Mark had never expected that a simple caretaking job would turn into something so complicated. Zara wasn't human, and at times he could feel the distance that her alien biology created. Yet their connection was undeniable. They had shared countless quiet moments, from watching the stars together to talking about their worlds. Zara would often share stories from her home planet, tales of distant galaxies and civilizations that Mark could barely understand. But what struck him the most was the way Zara's eyes softened when she spoke of her kind. There was a deep sadness there, one that she tried to hide. Mark couldn't help but wonder about her past and what had brought her to this lonely station in the first place. Tonight, however, something was different. Zara had been acting strangely. She hadn't spoken much over the past few days, her usual calm demeanor replaced by an unusual restlessness. She would pace the room, her blue skin glowing faintly in the dim light, her sharp eyes never leaving Mark. It was as if she was struggling with something that Mark couldn't quite understand. At first, he thought it was just the usual after effects of her healing process. Zara's species had a highly advanced regenerative ability, and sometimes it made her act unpredictably. But there was something about tonight that made Mark uneasy. He had seen Zara in many different states, but this felt different. She was tense, her body language rigid, as though something inside her was changing, something she couldn't control. "Zara?" Mark asked, his voice hesitant as he approached her. She was sitting near the large window of the station, her eyes fixed on the distant stars. Her normally smooth silver skin seemed to shimmer more than usual, and there was an intensity in her gaze that Mark had never seen before. She didn't answer right away. Her silence only added to the tension in the air. Mark stepped closer, his heart racing. "Zara, what's going on? You've been acting different." For a moment, Zara's eyes flicked to him, but she quickly looked away again, as though she was trying to fight something inside herself. "I cannot explain it," she said softly, her voice strained. "It is my heat cycle." Mark blinked, his confusion growing. "Heat cycle? What does that mean? I thought your species didn't go through that kind of thing." Zara turned to him, her eyes locking with his. There was a strange look in them, one that Mark couldn't quite place. Intensity mixed with something else, something darker. Not all beings experience it, but when we do, it is overwhelming. I have no control over it. Mark felt a chill run down his spine. He had known Zara to be strong, composed, and in control of everything. The idea that she could lose control was unsettling. He reached out to her, his hand hovering near her shoulder, unsure of what to do. "What do you mean? How can I help you?" Zara's eyes softened for a brief moment, and Mark thought he saw something vulnerable there, a crack in the strong, stoic facade she always wore. "There is nothing you can do, Mark. It is part of who I am. My kind. We go through this cycle, and during it, we must choose a mate." Mark's heart skipped a beat. The idea of Zara, the calm, distant alien needing to choose a mate, felt like a foreign concept. What did she mean by choosing? His mind raced with questions. He had always respected Zara as a caretaker, as someone who had saved his life when no one else could. But this was something entirely new. The thought of Zara looking at him like that, choosing him for something so intimate, was something Mark never expected. "Zara, I don't understand," he said quietly, his voice barely above a whisper. "Why would you choose me?" Zara turned, fully to face him now, her gaze unwavering. "Because, Mark, you are the one who has always been there for me. You are the one who has cared for me. You are the one who has shown me kindness. My heat cycle has awakened a need, and I can only choose someone who I trust completely." The room seemed to close in around Mark as he tried to process what Zara was saying. His heart pounded in his chest, and he suddenly felt a weight on his shoulders that he had never felt before. This wasn't just about caring for her anymore. It was about something far deeper, something far more intense. Zara was looking at him not as a caretaker, but as something more. The tension in the room was palpable. Mark could feel it in his chest, the pull between them growing stronger with each passing second. Zara's alien nature, her vulnerability, and her trust in him were all wrapped up in this one intense moment. It was the beginning of something Mark had never anticipated, and he had no idea what would come next. But one thing was clear. His life, and his relationship with Zara, was about to change forever. The air in the small station felt heavy, thick with tension. Mark stood frozen, unable to look away from Zara, who had now revealed the truth behind her strange behavior. He couldn't understand what was happening, how her heat cycle was affecting her, how it could make her act so differently. But there was no mistaking the intensity in her eyes, a raw, primal need that was too strong to ignore. Zara sat still, her hands resting on her lap, but her chest rose and fell in shallow breaths. Mark could feel the heat radiating from her, an unnatural warmth that didn't belong to the cool metallic environment of the station. The soft silver glow of her skin seemed to shimmer with an intensity that made her look even more alien, as if she were no longer just a being from another world, but something untouchable, out of reach. Yet there she was, sitting right in front of him, so close that Mark could hear her every breath. "Zara," Mark whispered, his voice shaking slightly. "What do you mean by choosing a mate? I don't understand." Zara's eyes softened for a moment, the intensity in them giving way to something almost tender, as if she were trying to explain something that was beyond his comprehension. "Mark, it's a biological necessity for my kind. When we enter this cycle, it is not a choice we make lightly. The heat compels us, pulls us towards someone we trust, someone who can fulfill our needs. It's not just about intimacy, it's about survival. We choose those who have shown us kindness, who have been there for us when we needed it most." Mark felt a cold chill creep up his spine. He couldn't process what she was saying. This wasn't something that could be easily understood. He had always seen Zara as a friend, someone he cared for deeply, but this was different. She was not asking for something casual. This was something far more profound, something he hadn't signed up for. "I've been here for you, Zara," Mark said softly, the words barely escaping his lips. "I've always been your caretaker, but I don't know if I can be what you need." Zara's eyes flicked to him, the intensity once again returning, sharper than before. "Mark, you've already given me everything I need. You've shown me patience, understanding, and care when no one else would. You've given me something I never thought I would find. Trust." Mark's heart pounded in his chest as the weight of her words sank in. He had spent so long trying to help her, to keep her safe, to make her feel comfortable in this strange new world. But now she was asking him to do something that felt beyond his reach. Could he truly be the one she needed in this moment of vulnerability? Zara's body shifted slightly, her long silver hair moving with her like a cascade of starlight. The heat cycle was beginning to take full control of her, and Mark could see it in the way she held herself, the way her breathing became more labored. She was struggling to keep her composure, to maintain the distance between them that she had always kept. But it was slipping away, bit by bit. "Mark," Zara said, her voice low and strained. I cannot control this. My body is overwhelmed. The cycle urges me and I must fulfill it. She paused, her eyes searching his face, as if trying to read him, trying to understand if he would run away from her. I have chosen you. You are the one I trust. The words hit Mark like a wave, crashing over him, leaving him breathless. He wanted to run, to escape from the overwhelming pressure of the moment, but he couldn't. He had been her caretaker for so long, and now Zara was looking at him with eyes full of trust, eyes that spoke of a deep, unspoken bond between them. I don't know if I can do this, Zara, Mark said, his voice shaky. I don't know if I can be what you need. Zara's face softened, and for a brief moment, the cold, alien intensity faded from her eyes. She reached out, her hand hovering just inches from his, and Mark could feel the warmth radiating from her fingertips, a heat that seemed to pulse with life itself. You already are, she said softly, her voice filled with an almost painful sincerity. I need you, Mark. You are the one who has always been there for me. I need you to help me through this. Please. The vulnerability in her voice, the way she seemed to surrender herself to him, struck something deep within Mark. He had never seen Zara like this, so raw, so exposed. She had always been the strong one, the one who didn't need anyone. But now she was asking him for something he didn't know if he could give. His heart raced as he struggled with his own emotions. What did this mean for their relationship? Could he accept this new role she was asking him to play? Mark had always thought of Zara as a friend, a companion, but now she was asking him to be something more, to fulfill a need that went beyond simple caretaking. Zara's breathing grew more rapid, and her eyes widened slightly, as if she was nearing the point of no return. Mark's mind raced. He couldn't deny the pull he felt toward her, the deep, unspoken connection that had been growing between them. But this was different. This was not something he had prepared for. I'm scared, Zara, Mark confessed, his voice trembling with uncertainty. I don't know if I can be the one you need. Zara closed the distance between them, her hand finally resting gently on his, her touch soft but insistent. You are the one, Mark. You've always been the one. I trust you more than anyone. I need you now. The words hung in the air, thick with the weight of what was to come. Mark could feel the heat from her touch spreading through his entire body. It was as if the room itself had become suffused with a sense of urgency and longing. Zara's alien nature, her overwhelming need, and his own conflicted feelings all swirled together, making it impossible to turn away. In that moment, Mark realized there was no turning back. This was the beginning of something he could never have imagined, something that would change both of their lives forever. He had been chosen, and now he had to decide whether to embrace this new path or run from it. Zara's eyes locked onto his, and Mark knew that whatever happened next, they would face it together. The silence in the room felt heavier now, as if the weight of Zara's words lingered in the air, thick with uncertainty. Mark sat at the edge of the couch, his hands trembling slightly in his lap. His heart raced, unsure of what to do, what to feel. Zara had chosen him, and the realization hit him like a thunderclap. She wasn't just asking for help. She was asking him to be something more. The fear, the confusion, and the longing inside him mixed into a swirling storm of emotions that he couldn't seem to control. Zara sat across from him, her eyes still locked onto his. But now there was a different kind of intensity in them, a quiet desperation, an overwhelming need. Her breathing had slowed, but there was a tension in her body, a sense of restraint that wasn't there before. It was as if she was waiting for him to make the next move, to make the decision that would change everything. Mark couldn't help but feel a tug of responsibility, of duty. He had always cared for Zara, protected her when she was vulnerable, helped her heal after her injury. He had never thought of her in this way before. But now, with the heat cycle consuming her, he was forced to confront something deeper than their friendship. Zara was asking him to cross a line, one that would forever change the way he saw her, and the way he saw himself. "I don't know if I can do this, Zara," Mark whispered, his voice low and full of uncertainty. "I've always been here, for you. I've always cared for you, but this is different." Zara's gaze softened for a moment and she looked away, her fingers nervously tapping the edge of the armrest. "I know it's different, Mark. But you're the only one I trust. The only one who has never looked at me like I'm just a thing to be studied or controlled. You've always treated me like I'm more than that." Mark swallowed hard, his throat tight with emotion. He wanted to say something, anything, to ease the tension that gripped him. But no words seemed right. How could he explain what he was feeling? How could he tell Zara that part of him was terrified of what was happening, while another part of him was strangely drawn to her, to the intensity that now existed between them? "I've never seen you like this, Zara," Mark said, his voice trembling slightly. "You've always been in control. Strong. But now you're asking me to take on a role I don't know if I'm ready for." Zara's eyes flicked back to him, and there was a flicker of something in her expression, a mixture of pain and understanding. "I don't want to lose your respect, Mark. I don't want you to think I'm just some alien creature who can't control herself. But when my heat cycle begins, I can't fight it. It's a part of who I am, a need that goes beyond reason." Mark's mind reeled, trying to comprehend the weight of what she was saying. Zara, this extraordinary alien being, was no longer the distant, unapproachable figure he had known. She was vulnerable, human in her need, and in that moment, he couldn't help but feel a deep empathy for her. But at the same time, the fear and doubt in him grew stronger. He wasn't prepared for this. He wasn't ready to cross the line into a territory he didn't understand. "Zara," he began, his voice faltering. "What if this changes everything? What if after this we can't go back to the way things were?" Zara looked down at her, hands, her silver blue skin shimmering faintly under the station's lights. For a long moment she didn't answer. Mark could see the struggle on her face, the internal battle she was fighting as she tried to make sense of her own emotions. Her alien instincts were at war with her feelings for him, and it was clear that she was torn between two worlds, the need of her species and the bond they had formed together. "I don't know what will happen after this, Mark," Zara said, softly, her voice tinged with sorrow. "But I know that I need you, and that's something I can't deny. Not anymore." The words hung in the air, and Mark felt a sharp pang in his chest. He had always tried to do what was best for Zara, always tried to be the person she needed him to be, but now, the roles were reversing. Zara was the one who needed him, and he had to decide whether he could be what she required, or whether he would back away from the bond they had formed. Mark's hands clenched into fists, his emotions a swirling vortex of fear, confusion, and something else, something deeper. He couldn't ignore the pull he felt toward her, the way his body reacted to her presence, the way she had always made him feel safe, and now, the way she needed him in this most intimate and vulnerable way. It was more than just physical attraction. It was the depth of their connection, the years they had spent together, learning each other's ways, sharing moments of silence and understanding. She had trusted him with her life before, and now she was asking him to trust her with his heart. "I don't know if I'm strong enough for this, Zara," Mark whispered, "but I can't turn my back on you. Not now. Not when you've asked me for this." Zara's eyes softened and she reached out to him, her hand brushing against his. The contact sent a jolt through him, the heat from her touch almost unbearable. She seemed to sense his hesitation, the conflict that still lingered in his heart. "You don't have to be strong, Mark," Zara said quietly. "You just have to be here. With me." Mark looked at her, her vulnerable eyes staring back at him. The conflict inside him slowly began to dissolve. There was no turning back from this moment. This was the point where their relationship would change forever. And in that change, he realized something deep within himself. He couldn't imagine a life without Zara in it, no matter how complicated or difficult the path ahead might be. In that quiet moment, Mark knew he had made his decision. He wasn't sure where this would lead or what would happen next, but one thing was certain. He wasn't going to walk away. Not now. Not from Zara. She had chosen him, and now he had chosen her. Whatever came next, they would face it together. Zara, still holding his hand, gave him a small, grateful smile. And in that smile, Mark found a sense of peace. He wasn't sure where this journey would take them, but he knew that for better or for worse, they would navigate it side by side. The silence in the room was now filled with a different kind of tension. The heat cycle that had once seemed like an overwhelming, uncontrollable force was starting to ebb, leaving in its wake a new kind of stillness between Mark and Zara. Mark sat next to her, his hand still resting in hers, his heart pounding in his chest. The events of the last few hours had unfolded with a speed he hadn't anticipated, and now that the immediate rush of the heat cycle was fading, he found himself caught between relief and a deep sense of uncertainty. Zara, too, seemed changed. The usual calm and controlled demeanor that he had come to associate with her was now replaced with something softer, more vulnerable. Her silver blue skin still glowed faintly in the dim light of the space station, but there was no longer the same intensity in her eyes. She had let down her walls, something Mark never imagined he would witness. The alien creature he had once seen as distant and powerful had been exposed in a way that left them both raw and uncertain. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Zara looked down at their hands, as if unsure of what to say next. Mark, on the other hand, had so many questions swirling in his mind, but none of them seemed to matter now. What mattered was the connection they had forged, the bond that had been strengthened by the vulnerability they had both shared. "I never thought this would happen," Mark finally said, his voice quiet, but filled with emotion. "I never thought I would be the one you chose." Zara met his gaze, her eyes filled with something that resembled both gratitude and sadness. "I didn't know either," she whispered. "I didn't know what this would mean. But you are the one who has always been there for me, Mark. You've shown me kindness, patience, and understanding when no one else would. I needed you in ways I never expected. And now, I realize how much I've come to care for you." Mark's heart ached at her words. He had always seen her as a friend, a companion, someone he cared for deeply. But now, as he looked into her eyes, he realized that the bond they shared had transformed into something far more complex. He wasn't just her caretaker anymore. He was someone who had become an integral part of her life, someone she trusted beyond measure. And in that realization, Mark knew that his feelings had changed as well. "I don't know if I'm ready for all of this, Zara," Mark admitted, his voice strained. "But I know that I can't walk away from you. Not now. Not after everything we've been through." Zara squeezed his hand gently, her touch comforting and reassuring. "You don't have to be ready, Mark. You just have to be here. With me. That's all I need." The simplicity of her words struck Mark deeply. All this time, he had been worried about the complexities of their relationship, about what it would mean for them both. But the truth was, Zara wasn't asking for anything grand or complicated. She wasn't asking him to become someone else, to fulfill some role that he couldn't. She just wanted him to be with her, to share in this moment and face whatever came next. Together. Mark nodded, feeling a sense of clarity wash over him. "I'm here, Zara. I'm not going anywhere. We'll figure this out." For the first time in what felt like forever, Zara smiled. A small, soft smile that filled the room with warmth. It was a smile that spoke volumes, one that conveyed everything she couldn't say in words. In that moment, Mark knew that he had made the right choice. This wasn't about understanding everything, or even being fully prepared for what lay ahead. This was about being there for each other, about taking the leap together, and trusting that, whatever happened, they would find a way to navigate it. "I don't know what the future holds for us, Zara," Mark said softly, "but I'm willing to find out." Zara's eyes shimmered with unshed tears, but there was no sadness in them, only acceptance, understanding, and the quiet joy of a bond that had been formed through mutual respect and shared vulnerability. She didn't need to say anything more. Her presence, her touch, and the way she looked at him were all the answers he needed. The moments that followed were quiet and gentle, filled with the kind of understanding that comes when two people, or, in this case, two beings, finally see each other for who they truly are. The heat cycle that had once seemed so terrifying and alien now felt like a distant memory, something they had overcome together. What remained was something stronger, something more enduring, a bond that had been forged through trust, through shared experiences, and through a willingness to face the unknown together. As the station's lights flickered softly around them, Mark and Zara sat in silence, their hands still intertwined, their hearts finally aligned. There were no more questions, no more doubts. The uncertainty that had plagued Mark's mind in the hours before had been replaced by a quiet certainty. They didn't need to have all the answers right now. What mattered was that they had each other, and together they could face whatever challenges the future held. And so, in the quiet stillness of the space station, Mark and Zara found an unexpected resolution, not just to the chaos of Zara's heat cycle, but to the deeper questions of what their relationship meant. They had crossed a line, yes, but in doing so, they had discovered something even more precious, the kind of connection that transcended species, that went beyond biology and instinct. It was the connection of two souls who had found each other, in a universe full of uncertainty, and who now, at long last, understood what it meant to truly be together. The journey ahead would not be easy, but for the first time, Mark felt ready for it. With Zara by his side, there was nothing they couldn't face. And as they sat together, staring out into the vast expanse of space, Mark realized that this was just the beginning of a new chapter in their story, one that neither of them had ever expected, but one that they would write together.